Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRNAM for Monday, June 12th, 2023. And our top story today, labor shortages, the housing crisis, and higher ed. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more, Joshua Kim is with Dartmouth College. Josh, great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Great to see you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, and we always love talking a little higher ed, and we love talking about it with you. Let's talk about the labor shortage, because just more broadly speaking, I want to get your input on this. The U.S. has what is considered to be full employment, and that has created challenges for retail, local, large, small businesses in attracting workers. What's the impact to higher education?
Yeah, so let's just start with the broader picture of the labor shortages, because I think this is the most important, or one of the most important stories of our time, because we all depend on the people who do the jobs to get the things that we need. And there's a shortage of those people across the economy. I'm most familiar with this. My wife's a physician, a pediatric oncologist, and they're so short of nurses at her hospital. They're just desperately short of nurses. My younger daughter is a teacher, and we're so short of teachers. And we know we're short of preschool teachers. And this is across the economy. We can talk about everything from truck drivers to home builders to police officers to people who work in restaurants. This is pervasive across the economy. So in my world, in higher education, there's real questions about how this labor shortage across the economy impacts colleges and universities. So I think that's what we're going to dig into together.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because again, I completely agree with you on the nursing shortage, the teacher shortage. I mean, it really is so pervasive. But in the one hand, you all in the higher ed field are graduating kids, students. They're going into the workforce. So that it seems like there's a pretty decent high graduation rate. So it seems like there's a supply of workers for the future. But is that the case? And maybe there is a staffing shortage in higher ed itself.
Yeah, I think, Jeffrey, there's a couple of different ways we can approach this. One way we can think about it is, what are colleges and universities' role in the larger labor shortage? If we're short so many nurses, why aren't we graduating more nurses, right? Like, nurses can get a job anywhere. If we're short so many teachers, how come we're not graduating more teachers? I mean, I think that's one part that we can dig into. The other question that we have is of colleges and universities as places of work. They are workplaces. About 3.5 million people work at colleges and universities across the country. About 1.5 million of those are faculty, and about 2 million of those are staff. And if we think about colleges and universities as places of work, we should really ask, are colleges and universities able to attract and retain enough people to educate our students and graduate them into the jobs that we need? And I think we have challenges on that end also, which we can talk about.
Yeah, so I'm gonna you ask the question. I don't have to re-ask it, but are we doing enough on? You need great faculty in order to educate the student. I keep on saying kids because they're kids relative to me, but educate this. They may not all, by the way, not be kids. But you need staff, you need faculty to educate, but you also need people to do facilities. You need people to do the janitorial work, to do the maintenance. I mean, there's so much that goes on. It's a little ecosystem unto itself. So what do you need to do? Is it retirement benefits? Is it healthcare benefits? Is it benefits in general that would make higher education the place to go for employment? Is it wages? How do we get more people into higher education employment?
Yeah, I think that this is a good news and a bad news story. So we start with the assumption that we need people to work in higher education so we can create the graduates that we need for our economy. That's a no-brainer. And we think there's about 3.5 million higher education workers, and universities spend about 60% of their spending of their budgets on people. It's a very people intensive business. We really need people to run this. So the good news is that people do want to work for colleges and universities. It's a mission-driven kind of job. The people who go into this field don't do it to get rich. They do it because they believe in what universities do, the opportunities that they create, the knowledge that they create. They believe in them. Historically, colleges and universities have been, more stable. Jobs in colleges and universities have been more stable. They've been good jobs. They haven't maybe paid a ton, but you're less likely to get laid off or unemployed if you work. So they're good jobs. They're mission driven. They're good jobs. I think one of the challenges we're seeing now is, even though people want to work for colleges and universities, it's getting increasingly difficult to attract and retain those folks, and particularly younger workers. And part of that is the housing issue, which we're going to talk about. Part of it is that higher education wages have not grown with expenses. So I think this is also a real challenge.
Yeah, and we're going to get to the housing crisis, the housing shortage in the second segment. Just to kind of follow up on that, and this is kind of I don't know, this is out of right field or left field, but I want to ask you about a lot has been made about artificial intelligence, and how can that or can that be applied to what you're describing? I mean, it's really hard to get a computer to do some of the things that we're describing here, right? I mean, a computer or an algorithm can't fix a toilet, not that I know of, not yet. So can some technology be used to make up for some of those shortfalls?
Yeah. So I work in online education. That's my field. And to do online education, first of all, we need people who are really good at technology to come into higher education to help us build the platforms and the systems that we need, including people who understand AI and are going to incorporate these kind of technologies in how higher education is changing. Because we're trying to make higher education more accessible and more affordable, and build online education programs that allow people who are working full time to go to school. So the challenge we have here is that there's that same need for these people with really strong technical skills across private industry. Like even though we've seen some layoffs in the tech sector, if you look at the numbers, there's still vast shortages of people with technical skills in the economy. We need those people also to want to come to work at colleges and universities to incorporate things like AI so we can make higher education more productive. We're very challenged to pay the kind of competitive salaries that you need to attract these folks. So historically, we've really leaned on mission. You really want to work at universities, and we've kind of leaned on the job security. We have not had the kind of layoffs that you've seen at Facebook and Amazon and Google. It's still a difficult proposition to attract that leading edge, those people who work on AI that you talked about.
Yeah. Well, Josh, I need to take a very quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the housing crisis and the impact to higher ed. I bet you're going to find out that there is a significant impact. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Invesco's latest Show Me the Income study reflects on the evolving retirement industry today as it faces the pressing need to help participants turn their defined contribution plan savings into long-term retirement income. Key findings from the research uncover that nearly 7 in 10 participants fear running out of money in retirement, and only 22% were very confident they could create a retirement income strategy on their own. What can employers do to help? To learn more about the study and request the white paper, visit Invesco.com/retirement income or contact your Invesco DC professional. Cited research is based on Invesco's work with Greenwald Research. Invesco is not affiliated with Greenwald Research. Invesco Advisors, Inc. is an investment advisor that provides investment advisory and does not sell securities. Invesco Distributors, Inc. is the U.S. distributor for Invesco's retail products and private placements. Both are indirect wholly owned subsidiaries of Invesco Limited.
Tax audits, tax liens, wage garnishments.
Every day we hear stories like this about good folks who are simply struggling to pay their bills. Each of them are living a frightening IRS tax nightmare, and they are afraid it will destroy their lives.
I'm a divorced single mom, and my ex-husband left me and the kids with a lot of unpaid bills, including unpaid taxes. I was really starting to show my stress on my kids because the IRS had sent me a letter demanding a huge payment from me. I couldn't afford it. So then the IRS was threatening to garnish my wages. I'm already living paycheck to paycheck. That would have put me over the edge financially.
It truly seemed hopeless, but then a friend at work told her to call the tax relief line.
The people at the tax relief line, they told me about something called innocent spouse relief. They worked it out so that all of the taxes from my ex are not my problem. I don't know how that works, and I don't care. All I care about is that I don't owe the IRS a dime, and they are not going to take my paycheck.
Even if it seems hopeless, you should call the number on your screen right now. There is absolutely no cost for the call or the consultation. You are under no obligation. If you are worried that the IRS could garnish your wages, seize your assets, even take your home, call us right now. The Tax Relief Line is here to help you. Now you have a knowledgeable, professional team of tax experts that are ready to negotiate with the IRS and fight for you to save you money. The Tax Relief Line's professionals have successfully negotiated thousands of cases, reducing and sometimes even eliminating the tax debt for their clients. It's very easy to get started. Simply call the number on your screen right now. You don't have to live in fear anymore. The call and the consultation are free.
Well, Josh, thanks so much for staying with us this morning. Really appreciate you hanging around for segment number 2.
Jeffrey, terrific conversation.
Yeah, this is a fun one. And again, I think for the audience's benefit, this is an example where you take the macroeconomic and then you kind of try to pigeon it and push it into how it impacts different industries, like education. Josh, let's talk about housing, because people who watch this program and just people in general know that there is a shortage of affordable housing. And many of our colleges and universities are surrounded by college towns. I mean, I think of maybe Dartmouth, where you are, maybe some others, that there's, the economy of those towns are really built up around the college and university. How does the housing crisis and the affordability crisis impact higher education?
Yeah, so here we're trying to put together two trends, labor shortages and housing shortages, and think about how that relates to higher education. Overall, we know in the US we have a shortage of between 3 and 6 million houses. Household formation has so far outpaced the construction of new housing, and there's a lot of reasons behind this. Um, there's been a shortage of new homes being built that are affordable because builders want to build houses that actually make a profit for them. And those are usually larger homes, more luxury homes. So there's been a concentration of these larger, more expensive homes and a real lack of affordable homes. We also know builders have trouble finding skilled tradespeople to build these houses. There's been a lot who left after the 2008 recession, many retirements. The labor shortages we talked about are really hitting the housing industry very hard. High interest rates, there's all sorts of reasons why we have a structural housing shortage. Well, higher education as a workplace, this impacts us because higher education runs on people, and those people have to live somewhere.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. So it's not just the wages, the benefits. Now you've got to house people, not you particularly, but they have to be within the geographic area in order to provide services to the university as employees. What can be done? I mean, you already have, I think we've done stories on this network about shortages for students in terms of housing, right? So, but what can be done to support people that want to work for higher education? Do you bring them on campus? Does the university buy up property around the university for student or faculty housing? How do you kind of broach that?
Yeah, you're asking the right questions. I'm not sure I have the answers. I think we have to first keep in mind that universities and colleges run on people. And all the people who take care of the students, who serve them food, who clean the academic buildings and the dorms, who work in our libraries, who advise our students. None of these jobs are paid a ton, but they're all essential. They need to be done for our students to be successful and our faculty to teach. So our colleges and universities run on people. They don't run on AI yet. We don't have robots doing that kind of work. And forever, we kind of assumed in colleges and universities that since people want to work at our institutions, they'll figure it out with their housing. They'll kind of make it work. Well, nowadays that assumption is becoming less tenable as there's such a shortage of these entry-level homes or these affordable homes. Rents keep going up. Mostly colleges and universities have stayed out of the housing game. Some institutions, say New York City institutions, Columbia, NYU, they try to invest in housing for their workforce, but that is not very common. And many schools have gotten out of that business. They think we'll let the market do that. Well, if you can't get people to actually live close enough to your campus to come to work, you're not going to be able to get those people, those employees. It's just going to be difficult. So I think the question is now, do our higher education institutions need to get directly into the housing game? Do they need to find ways to invest in workforce housing, affordable housing in our communities? And I think this discussion is very much, we're at the beginning of this discussion within higher education.
And it's not the same, but the military, I mean, people get aligned if you're in different, depending on what branch you're in, you may be sent overseas. And if you're an officer, you might bring your family along. And so there is housing on the basis. Again, very, very different. That's funded by the government. But I would think that could be a model for, because look, let's face it, the price of gas is here in Charlotte. I think I paid yesterday for my wife's car, $3.39 a gallon. The price of food's going up. There isn't always great mass transit like there is in New York and Boston and other, Washington, D.C. So that's another issue. So could that model of what's being done for the military, again, government, I'm not asking for the government to do it, but could that be applied for higher education, both private and public universities.
Yeah, I love that idea. I love the idea of universities actually thinking the residence halls that we need to build are not only for our students, which they need them, but also for our workforce. Remote work is not going to solve higher education staffing needs. Most people who work at colleges and universities have to be on campus because the work that they do are serving our students. So we can't say, look, people are just going to zoom in to their campuses. You can't zoom in to feed the students or help clean the classrooms or the residence halls. So I love the idea of, say, let's look at another sector that's had to solve this. That the military has said, look, they've invested on-base housing. I also think it would add to the vibrancy of our campuses. It would be wonderful to have staff at all levels, and we really need to bring in younger staff. I mean, that's one thing we have to talk about, is that our higher education staff is aging quickly, moving to retirement very quickly, as you know about. We have a very old age structure. We need to recruit those younger workers. That's just a necessity. I think if we brought housing into the compensation bundle, that would be a wonderful incentive for young people today who are thinking about their careers, because we're going to need them to replace everyone who's going to retire. It's amazing how much talent is going to walk out the door in the next 5-10 years as the boomers retire. We need to we need to bring in our Gen Z next employees. They're going to be replacing them. So Jeffrey, I love your idea to think about the military as a model.
Yeah, it certainly, or maybe a stipend, something like that. And I have to say, I haven't been on campus in a while, but I know the food selection, and it wasn't bad when I went to school. But the food, it's like you guys have like executive chefs now. They didn't have that when I went to college. I mean, you just had 2 cafeterias. Now they have so much selection. So you need those workers for like the Taco Bell and the Subway and the organic food store. Josh, we're going to have to leave it there. Always great catching up with you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line, and don't forget, for all the latest security news and lifestyle, wellness, finance, tech, so much more in all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. Want to search our archives, check out our latest content, visit our website, and of course, all of our streaming partners. We're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes. Now is your opportunity to co-create content around any topic on the First Lifestyle and Wellness Network. Reach a global audience through our platform and co-own exclusive branded content. All of our programs are available on demand and also as audio-only podcasts, so you can take us on the go. Broadcast Retirement Network, available anytime, anywhere, and on any device.